Welcome to Irreverent Faith and Current Affairs, two Church of England revs talking about the issues of the day. Jamie Franklin, Tom Pelham. Tom, how art thou this morn?
Yeah, well, I've got my shirt sleeves out,
Yes, yeah.
It's,
I'm still a
it's,
bit cold in my back office, if I'm honest
it's
with
quite cold.
you.
Yeah.
I'm freezing. I'm absolutely freezing.
Just, but anyway, no, it's nice.
Sunny here. Sunny here. Is it sunny
But
there where
it
you
is
are?
it's very beautiful sunny here. We're not that far
Burwash.
apart, so
Burwash.
it's only about 100 miles. But
Yeah.
yeah, um,
We're 100 miles apart, Tom, but
still the same chum,
we're actually together in heart.
or something like that. I'm good, thank you, Jamie. I was
Great.
saying that last week I didn't have any internet, which is part of the reason I wasn't on Irreverent. I know there were other reasons, but because a car drove into our telephone pole
Nasty.
at speed and knocked the whole thing over. So that was a pain.
Drunk driver, you said.
Well, that's the rumor in the village,
That's the
but
rumor. The
that's
rumors
the
going
rumor.
around the village. All the villagers saying, "Have you heard the news? He was a drunk driver." What do they? What do they talk? What do they talk? What's the accent like? What's like the rural accent like there? Can you
Oh,
do
it's
it?
not. I can't really do it. It's the old Sussex is dying out, unfortunately.
Ah, it's a shame. Do
The
they have
the
roticity?
moticity.
It's like when you say the R's in the middle of a word, like party or something like that, or
No, not. Oh, some of
call.
them do. Yeah. So yes, actually they do. Uh, I remember one old lady in the church. She said to me, "I said, oh, it feels like it was a couple of years ago. It feels like spring's coming. The hawthorns actually. There'll be a hawthorn winter.
Yeah,
There'll be a
yeah.
hawthorn winter."
Hawthorne. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
And I
nice.
said, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "When the hawthorn comes out, it can get cold again."
Mm.
So yeah,
Nice. Yeah,
yeah,
where I'm from, Mersey Island near Colchester, the old like Mersey accent has roticity, which is, obviously like most people in the south, and particularly in the southeast, don't speak like that. They don't sound their R's.
yeah.
So it's very kind of distinctive.
But
Um,
yeah, I think the old way of saying Burwash is Bursh.
Birch,
Bursh. That gives you sort of idea of it. A
like
sense
a
of
kind of
horrible
like a kind
Bursh.
of like it's all run together, like one
Yeah,
Birch.
Bursh, which I think is much better. I think they should. I think they should
Let's
reclaim it
bring
actually.
that Birch
Yeah,
wheeled,
Bursh.
Birch
Well,
and
that's
Birch
the old.
wheeled.
It's the old. There's an old rhyme which requires it being Bursh to in this part of the world to rhyme. So and that's how Kipling certainly used it. So it's not that long since it was the predominant way of saying it.
So you'd be the vicar of Etchingham, Birch, and Birch Weald.
Yeah.
Great. I like it. I like it. Tom, I got a notice here.
Yeah.
I'm actually appearing at the Oxford Literary Festival next week.
Oh.
Yeah, it's exciting. Tuesday, 24th of March at 2 p.m. at Pusey House. And I'm going to be with Bijan
Oh,
Omrani
nice. Yeah, yeah.
and Nick Spencer. And this
Very
is,
nice.
is chaired by, I think she's Professor Jane Shaw.
Mhm.
Yes, she is. Yes, Professor of History and Religion at the University of Oxford and a former principal of Harris Manchester College. And the title of this is Ignoring Christianity at Our Peril. Can Christian Faith Save the
Isn't
West?
isn't Harris Manchester a Unitarian college?
I think it may have been
Does
founded.
that mean there's
I don't
just
think
been Prince
it,
is
she,
anymore? Okay.
I don't know, I don't know if she's a
Who knows?
Unitarian or
Yeah.
not. Never met her.
The uh that sounds very fun. Is that because you've written the book, Jamie?
Yeah, it's basically about the book. I mean, I
Okay.
mean, well, I mean, basically that's why they've invited me, and
Okay,
also
fair enough.
Obviously Bijan's book is very kind of similar,
Yeah,
about England rather than just kind of
how
generally.
the church made England or something, isn't it? Or
It's
how the
called God is an Englishman.
that's it. God is an
I
Englishman.
forget the subtitle. It's a very good
Yeah,
book, I have to say.
I've not read it. But
Yeah.
we're trying to. I think we're trying to get him to come to give a talk in one of our
Mm.
parishes because
Yeah.
he's we do a sort of literary talk.
Yeah.
I think we got Fergus coming in who wrote 12 Churches. Fergus
Fergus
Butler.
Butler Galley. Yeah. Well,
Nice.
you should get Bijan. Bijan did an
Well, I
episode
think we're
about
trying
it.
to. Yeah, we're trying to. Yeah.
Bijan was very, very good. So yeah, I don't know what that's going to be like. Hopefully, it's going to be good. So yeah, Tuesday, 24th of March, 2 p.m. Pusey House in Oxford. So anyone can buy tickets for that and come along. I'll put a link on the show notes so you can join if you like through booking using that link. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be like, Tom. I'm glad. I have to say, I'm glad that there are other people on the panel because if it was just me, I'd feel quite worried about that. So I'm glad there are a few other people on the
It'd be
panel.
fine. You did great. When Edward Dowler interviewed you in Chichester, it's fine.
Oh, thanks. That's really kind of you. That was like a really nice, supportive audience.
Good.
They were very sound, Tom. They all had very sound views, which makes things easier. So
Yeah,
I think they probably have sound views at Pusey
yeah,
House as
quite a
well.
few of them listeners. Good. Yeah, well, it's good. Although, as I say always, whenever I think about Pusey House, I think about the campest Jesus in the world on their altar tent.
Oh yeah, on
It's
in the chapel,
reclining with
in like
with
the
golden hair and blue eyes. Anyway,
I think Jesus was probably like that. I think he was probably, he probably was a bit more like that than you give him credit for.
yeah.
No, I'm just joking. I don't really think that. I don't like gaudy church art, so I have to say, like,
No.
I'm not massively into
I'd
it.
happily whitewash the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty whitewashed anyway.
I'm glad you'd agree. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be whitewashing anything, but maybe be removing or changing certain things. Anyway, it's not up to me. I'm not a church. I'm not like a curator.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on, Tom. This is going to become a fruitless discussion if we're not careful. Let's
Really.
do our Bible reading. Oh, and prayer as well. Prayer is
Prayer.
important, and Bible reading. Do you want to do
Me,
prayer
you
and
do the
Bible
prayer because
reading?
I'm gonna read the Bible, so you start the prayer.
Okay. Invite the listeners and viewers to pray with us as we pray the Lord's Prayer. Let's pray. Our Father, which art in
Which art in
heaven,
heaven.
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
There we are. Very good.
Thank you.
So this is we did the doxology, which don't always do. Very
I
nice.
like the dog. I like it occasionally.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. This is from the gospel, the enormous gospel for this Sunday coming, Lent 5, which is
Passion
John
time.
11 to 45. We're not doing all 45 verses, but we're going to do a chunk from the middle, from 17 to 27, and this translation is the English Standard Version.
ESV.
Now, when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Well, a lot to unpack in that. We have two characters here, Mary and Martha. Interestingly, they're also spoken of in Luke's Gospel, where we have the Martha listening, and which way round is it? Mary listening, Martha serving. Can't remember.
Yeah, that's right.
And interestingly, the characters seem to be the same way around in here. So Mary's the sort of slightly more passive one, staying at home. Martha rushes out to meet him. So Jesus has been doing Jesus-y things in Galilee with his 12, and they send to him, and he comes too late. And we've already established in the gospel that he declared that he knew that Lazarus would die if he waited, and also that this would be done for the glory of God. So anyway, they come back to Judea, which is not without its dangers for the disciples, and Martha rushes out to meet him, and they have this wonderful conversation, which sort of peaks in that proclamation by Jesus that every minister knows so well, because I say it at virtually every single funeral that I've ever done. I think, in fact, everyone I always have it.
It's the
I
first
am the resurrection and the
sentence,
life.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the one I always do. Some I make, in common worship, there's some other choices, but I always do this one to start with. And interestingly, in the context of this conversation. As so often with John, we see partial understanding becoming greater understanding. So Martha already believes that Lazarus will rise again. She says in the resurrection on the last day. So she shares that sort of common Judaistic messianic belief that there will be a resurrection of the dead. It was common around this time, and indeed, it's an ongoing argument within Judaism in the contemporary time of Jesus, because you have the Sadducees who do not believe in the resurrection of the dead, you have the Pharisees who do. Um, so Martha expresses a belief in this sort of normal Jewish understanding, and then Jesus turns that normal Jewish understanding on its head, not on the last day, but actually that he himself is the resurrection and the life, and that belief in him, even though someone might die, they will live again.
Mm.
Um, and um, and this proclamation is quite shocking if you think about it. What's he claiming in front of it? If he didn't then go on to spoilers, raise Lazarus, it would be the word of a madman. But the whole point of this miracle is it demonstrates exactly that phrase is true. This is in fact the last of the 7 signs of the book of signs of John. If you want to separate the Gospel of John up into 2 parts, you could say there's the book of the signs, and then there's the book of the sort of passion. So this is this sign confirms that I am statement as well. And again, I am. This is the final, I believe, of the I am statement. So no, it's not. Is it? There's a couple in the, but it's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
I am being the name, the title that God gives himself to Moses in front of the burning bush, which, if you've been following your common worship daily office, we've been reading actually recently, where we're in the beginning of Exodus, and we've just had that. I am who I am. Jesus says to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He is claiming that sort of the God, the powers that only God has on the last day in the Jewish scriptures, and then it's sort of completed the capstone. Her belief is fulfilled. Her understanding is complete. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. And I think that that is an interesting tense, isn't it, at the end there, which has always caught me. I'm never quite sure what to make of it, and I think I need to check my Greek and to see whether the coming into the world applies to the Christ, which would be an odd thing to say to someone standing in front of them, or to God. Is it descriptive of Christ? Is it another clause, or is it part of the Son of God, God who is coming into the world? I'd have to check my Greek because it would be clear. But the sense in which Christ's and God's and therefore God's engagement in the world is developing at that moment and heading towards the ultimate moment of revelation upon the cross and upon the resurrection. And it's, in that sense, it's a great reading to have in Lent, because we start to see the prefiguration of God's plan coming to fruition on the cross.
Mm.
Anything else, Jimmy?
No, I mean it's a great passage, isn't it? I was just looking at that. It's a participle, Erchomenos, coming, so it's like, he's coming into the world. It's definitely referring to Christ, to the person she's speaking to. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's a, I don't know. I'd have to look at some other translations to see how it's to come by the combination of this verb with other terms, a variety of meaning results, which however is due not to a change of meaning of the verb, but to the adjunct hot erchomenos, he who is coming, the expected Messiah. So it's like saying you are coming into the, you are presently coming into the world. Not like you are coming like from the outside inside, but you are like coming,
Yeah,
from
it's
a
active,
lesser to a fuller kind of way, from a, sorry,
which
I can speak like that. Yeah.
which totally makes sense in that context of him sort of on the way towards the cross. She finally sees in the depth of her grief, she finally sees who he is,
Yeah.
and then of course he goes on to raise Lazarus, and have that sort of very moving moment where he weeps, even though he knows what he's going to do, he weeps because he's confronted with the reality of death.
Yeah, and he groans in his spirit as well, and all this kind of stuff. Where that's an interesting one. Like I looked that up, and like the church fathers, they sort of say like this is him kind of like suffering in his humanity as a result of this sort of confrontation with death. But I
Yeah,
think you could also see it as like it's showing like God's compassion in the face of
yeah,
it as
yeah,
well, isn't it?
yeah.
So I don't know, sometimes it's interesting when you get the patristic fathers kind of like separating out, oh, this is his humanity and this is divinity and all this kind of stuff. It's interesting, theologically.
Mhm.
No, it's
Good.
great. It's a great passage. I'm sure you're going to do really well with that, Tom.
Thank you.
I also need to write my sermon. Yeah, no, it's a great saying.
Brilliant.
I'm the resurrection and the life. I also love it when it says, it's because it's such a beautifully. I was reading through it yesterday. Just slowly. It's such a beautifully written story. The way it gradually grows to this climax. Where he's
Mm.
he's dead 4 days, and it's gonna. Don't go in there. Like, don't roll the stone away. It
He
will stink.
stinks.
It will
He stinketh.
he stinketh, as it says in the KJV. But then,
Yeah.
like, when it comes to, and then it said again, actually, Lord, by this time there will be an odor for his. So that said twice, and then it gradually grows to this climax where Christ prays, and then when after he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" And it's such an amazing climax to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
story. I think it's an
And
incredible reading.
interesting, it's slightly light-heartedly, but if he didn't specify Lazarus, he would have raised everyone in those tombs.
Yeah, for sure.
Is the
Yeah,
thought. It has to be very specific. Lazarus, come out. If he just said, "Come out,"
yeah.
then the tombs would have cracked open. Such is his power. But yeah, and
Amazing,
there's
amazing
also some
reading.
wonderful details. You couldn't mistake this for a sort of someone who's unconscious or whatever, or this is a miracle.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's why he waits the 2 days, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it
Four,
removes
well, four
any.
days is the under Jewish custom was the amount of time you had to be sure that someone was dead.
Yeah,
Not least, and it's a hot environment without any refrigeration, etc. It's not the body would have been unrecognizable almost by that point.
yeah.
But he's not. He's completely healed. His body is knit together again.
Amazing reading, amazing reading. And actually, it's a good segue into the stuff we're going to talk about because
Yes,
um,
and
you know,
may
I was
may
I was
I may I pop
yeah,
to the
yeah, of
gents room for a
course.
moment?
For a second. I mean, it's actually a really good reading, in terms of a segue into what we're talking about. And it reminds me, I was with my catechesis group last night that meets here in my house, and we've been going through the Ten Commandments, and we've kind of zipped through quite a lot of them, up 1 to 5, and then we got to the one about murder. And I wasn't really expecting this, but we've spent, like, 4 or 5 sessions now talking about the various things that come out of that discussion around, like, what constitutes, like, unjust killing and murder, and when is killing acceptable, and all this kind of stuff. And I think part of the reason for that, because for the kind of the fact that we've had to talk about it so much, is because this is in many ways like the absolute center of many things. I think particularly in our culture, so many of the stories that we talk about are really adjacent to this question. What constitutes, like, murder? When is killing acceptable? How do we weigh, like, life against other things such as choice and all this sort of thing? And it's true again, isn't it, Tom? We're going to talk now about assisted suicide, as it's called, and then we're going to talk about this big abortion vote that's coming up in the House of Lords
Today.
today.
I
In
believe
fact, yeah. So
today.
we're
Today.
recording on Wednesday, the 18th. So yeah, that's going to happen today. I'm not sure. Do you know what time in the day it's coming up?
No,
I'm not
no, I
sure.
don't.
But we thought we'd start with some good news, which is that we're sorry, and to just finish that thought off, I mean, obviously as Christians, and we've been talking about this literally from the first episode, we believe that, in the words of Christ, like, Christ is the resurrection and the life. This earthly life is not all that we have, and therefore that, like, transfigures our view of the future and of the hope that we have. And of course, we also believe that human beings are made in the image of God, so we have a sort of sacredness and dignity that should be preserved. Indeed, that our life is a gift given to us by God, and it's not up to us to take life in that sense. But yeah, should we start with the good news, Tom? Which is that in the Scottish Parliament, the MSPs have voted down the assisted suicide bill. Now we're actually just catching up with this because it happened yesterday, and we haven't even had time really to do any reading, have we, Tom? Because normally we're so diligent in reading stuff, but we haven't even really had time to read very much about this. So let's read now from the Christian Institute website. Scottish Parliament has rejected an attempt to legalise assisted suicide for adults deemed to be terminally ill with less than 6 months to live. So this has been rejected. It's fallen, the bill, and will not be debated further. It's the third time in 16 years that Holyrood has refused to endorse state-sponsored suicide. The vote followed widespread opposition to the proposals, with the Royal Pharmaceutical Society and the Royal College of psychiatrists in Scotland recently highlighting the risk to both medics and patients. The
Mhm.
Christian Institute Simon Calford responded, "We thank God that MSPs got the message that they simply could not pass this wretched bill. The many constituents who contacted their elected representatives can take a bow." So many colleges of medicine and disability groups expressed concern about the risks to the vulnerable and the sheer unworkability of the proposals. I think the lesson for Holyrood and for Westminster too is that there is no such thing as a safe assisted suicide bill. Instead of offering death to the sick, we invite the MSPs who lost the vote today to transfer their campaigning energies to offering them better palliative care instead.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hamza Yusuf opposed the bill, which is interesting, isn't it?
Well, presumably, it's one of those occasions where Islamic tradition and Christian tradition sort of line up.
Yeah,
Um,
probably, yeah.
possibly. Um, yeah, I mean, it's great news, and God be praised. To Him be the glory. And hopefully the bill in England will be put to bed soon as well. Although there's been yet another campaign for the government to give it more time or whatever. They never stop. They never stop. And Dame Ranza or whatever her name is, Ethsa Ranza. Is
Dame
it Ranza?
Rand.
Dame Ethsa Ranza, who by all her own bill would have been killed by the states, 5 or 6 years ago now. I don't know, at least 3 years ago. Uh, um, is once again, on manoeuvres. But I think we're going to see these headed off, which is good news. I'm confident about that now.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh,
So it would be a strange thing, wouldn't it, if it passed in England, but it was not legal in Scotland because it would be obviously massively inconsistent, and then you'd get Scottish people saying, "Oh, we ought to have it here. We shouldn't have to cross the border into that England in order to receive our euthanasia," and so on and so forth.
yeah.
The current bill in England and Wales is Ken Leadbeater's terminally ill adults end of life bill, a private member's bill, etc., etc., etc. We all know that. It passed the House of Commons in 2025, but it's been stuck in the House of Lords since mid 2025, facing over 1,000 proposed amendments, slow progress, and filibustering accusations. As of mid March 2026, it's in committee stage in the Lords, but widely seen as unlikely to complete all stages before the parliamentary session ends around May 2026, meaning it would probably fall and need reintroduction later. Will this have an effect on what's going to happen in England and Wales?
I think I think
Go on, carry on.
I think it does certainly give a lie to the kind of idea that this is an inevitable thing, supported by all progressive, people. And I think given that the Scottish Parliament is quite a lot more left wing than the British Parliament, because SNP sort of fall that way. I think it would give Labour kind of, if they were going to ram it through, they'd have to, engage with a lot of opposition from their own backbenchers who have been quite quiet about it, I think. But practically speaking, I think this is all good news. It's all good news.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's great. It's good news, isn't it? It is very, very good news. And let's hope that this does mean that it will encounter even more opposition in England and Wales, and that it will be decisively rejected. I think we can have good hope, actually. I think it's a real answer to prayer, isn't it? Because after
Mhm.
that vote last year, I mean, it just seemed so bleak, didn't it? It went through pretty easily in the end. And yeah, it's good. It's really good that it's receiving the amount of scrutiny that it has been in our country, and that it's been rejected in Scotland. So good news. Good news. Less good news is that we're in the House of Lords, a very important vote on this. I always find it hard to articulate what this actually is.
It's a crime and policing bill,
Yeah.
isn't it? But it's sort of an amendment slapped in to a completely separate bill, decriminalising abortion up to birth.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, hopefully this gets I'm not quite sure what the process is at this point. I think it's part of a bigger government bill, so the bill as a whole isn't going to get thrown down, although it's not a great bill in many ways, I think.
Mm.
The This particular amendment, I don't know whether they'll be able to vote it out or not. I mean, it's a ghastly amendment, and the idea that the babies have absolutely no protection until they're born. The same baby, my mother could literally kill the baby in their womb
Mm.
a day before giving birth, and but once the baby's born, um, they can just they can't do that. It's ridiculous. It's completely inconsistent. And it's actually not what the public want. Um, the generally the support for reduction in the length of time, the age of which the window in which abortion is permitted. And of course, I'd like to see no abortion at all, except for in the case of genuine medical need, which is so rare as to be, virtually unheard of. So yeah, I think the whole on the whole, this is not a good day if this passes. There's a bit of a kerfuffle about the what bishops were attending, wasn't there, Jamie?
Yeah, there was. Yeah. And I'll say something about that in a minute. But just one thing, just one comment on what you just said. I did a little bit of research recently about this, this thing where the Church of England's kind of official position is principled strong opposition with recognition of rare, strictly limited exceptions where it may be morally preferable. But I actually looked up. So you've got in the Abortion Act 1967, you've got grounds A to F, which talk about the risk of life to the pregnant woman, and then grounds, or is it A to F or is it A/F? And then there's B/G, which is to prevent grave permanent injury to physical or mental health. And almost all abortions that are carried out under the latter on the latter grounds. Abortions explicitly under grounds involving direct risk to life or grave permanent physical injury are a tiny fraction, typically between 0.05 to 0.1% or fewer in recent years. Pure to save life cases are even rarer. Some analyses estimate less than 0.04% of all abortions. So we're talking about between 6 to 100 cases per year out of hundreds of thousands of cases. So although I understand what's being said, that kind of like moral dilemma is that people use as a thin end of the wedge. It almost doesn't exist. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so
it's
minor.
yeah. I think
Um,
I saw something similar. It was a ex-abortionist who's come to Christ and repented, and he said, I committed 15, thousands of abortions in my time, and he said, I think, and about six were due to incest, and about 10 due to rape.
yeah.
The rest were all just elective.
Yeah.
Um,
Even
uh,
incest and rape would probably be under that clause about mental health, wouldn't they? So
mm,
they wouldn't even come into like to save life. I mean, maybe the incest thing might be. But then the other
so
thing, sorry, so let's just clarify what the bill does. So the bill, the amendment is it's an amendment to a bill, is it? What is it?
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's an amendment to a bill, and basically what it does is it means that women wouldn't be charged for, whatever murder for or anyone else involved in abortion after 24 weeks, but the 24 weeks limit would still be the time limit. So you still couldn't, it wouldn't be like people, the NHS would start carrying abortions out on 38-week-old babies, but it
no.
would no longer be a criminal offence to do so,
For
which
the
I think,
woman, I think a doctor who did it would still be
oh, is that right?
criminal.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. But then some people have pointed out that this actually introduced a kind of inconsistency, like certainly a kind of logical inconsistency, but you might say like a moral inconsistency in the law as well, because if something's not legal after a certain time period and you do it anyway, then surely it's a criminal action. So it is effectively a legalization of abortion up to birth, but just couched in slightly different terms, kind of
and
soft.
and of course and of course it's not necessary. I mean, these days, Alison Pearson has a great article about this actually, in the Telegraph, called "Britain is about to make a sickening change to the abortion law," and uh, there are, women can easily get aborticide drugs these days. It's done by post. There's very little checking. I mean, the Telegraph did a check of this, and there are very few There are very few checks. So people can get them. You know, someone else could fill out a form for you if you really wanted, and then you could take the drugs and kill the baby in your womb without a medical professional being
Yeah.
involved with it in any particular sense. You know, so you know, it's not like all abortions these days are done by medical professionals. The but then Alison Pearson points out rather horribly, you know, an abortion. This is the paragraph. Even if you manage, this is Alison Pearson, even if you manage to overcome your instinctive revulsion at the idea of putting a tiny human to death, how is it supposed to work in practice? An abortion pill administered by the mother, which is what Carla Foster did to her unborn daughter when she was between 32 and 34 weeks pregnant. Carla Foster, a case of someone prosecuted for infanticide for this, will stop the baby's heart. Will stop the baby's heart. How the dead baby is then removed from the womb is anyone's guess, since a medical professional assisting would be prosecuted under the bill. So the mother could end up dead as well. It doesn't bear thinking about, and maybe that's why so many MPs who voted for it didn't think, that is. We must hope the Lords, who will have a free vote, bring wiser heads to their decision.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, isn't it? I mean, oh my goodness, it's just terrible to even think about, isn't it? So
Yeah,
basically, the woman would be able to essentially legally to kill her, e.g., 34-week-old baby, but she wouldn't be legally entitled to medical assistance once she's got a dead baby in her womb. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous when you think about it. From that, it's a monstrous kind of thing well, a situation to create, potential
yeah,
situation to create for women. Oh, it's just absolutely
yeah.
horrendous.
It's
So
just so easy to get the pill. So Matt Hancock, you know, who obviously a great favourite politician of this podcast. Matt Hancock approved on March the 30th, 2020, a change to abortion rules allowing services to prescribe and deliver pills over the phone. Women were previously required to attend a clinic for an in-person appointment before taking the pills at home. Um, you know, Matt Hancock also responsible for the death of many babies, as well as the destruction of our society and the killing of many old people. Thanks, Matt Hancock.
very bad,
Um,
very bad.
uh,
Yeah, I mean,
and of
yeah,
course, all the other things he's done that are bad. Um,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
anyway,
absolutely. So I was going to say about what's going on in the Lords, and this is relevant to the bishops, right? So just context. So the bill has reached the report stage in the Lords, which means that peers are debating and voting on amendments. And so a prominent, what's called a strike-through amendment, has been tabled by the Conservative peer Baroness Rosa Monckton, and she seeks to delete the entire decriminalisation clause. Another amendment aims to reinstate mandatory in-person medical consultations before at-home abortion pills are sent, and some cross-party support exists for blocking or modifying this bill. Health Secretary Wes Streeting reportedly expressed unease earlier, and there's speculation about oppositions from figures like Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood. The Lords can't permanently block these measures, but they can amend them essentially.
well,
So
they can.
amendment is possible.
I mean, I don't think they're talking about completely throwing out the crime of policing bill. I think that they can amend it and send it back to Parliament. Now, Parliament can then put the amendment back in again if it so
Yeah,
wishes.
yeah.
But
Yeah, but it could go
uh,
backwards and forwards. Yeah, and that's
ping pong.
that's why. I mean, that's relevant. Your comment is relevant to this thing about this strike through amendment from Rosa Monckton. So if that were to if it would be to be amended, it would be sent back to the House of Parliament. Oh, sorry, House of Commons to then vote on it, and then they could put it through at that point. So anyway,
Um,
so you've got 26 bishops in the Church of England who sit in the House of Lords. They're the Lords spiritual, so they would be voting on this. The Lords has about 800 members, but attendance is often around 1 to 300 members for controversial decisions. So bishops coming in and voting as a block could tip a close vote. And obviously they make speeches and all this kind of stuff as well. But then the slightly sort of controversial thing is that I'm not sure when this was announced, but basically the incoming
the,
Archbishop of Canterbury. You carry on, Tom. You carry on.
so no. I mean, I think the bill, the timing of the bill was only announced very recently.
Yeah,
So that's the answer to your. I'm not sure when this is. Like last Friday or something. So
yeah.
there we go. Um, um,
So yeah, on March. Yeah. So I mean, what part of the interesting thing here is about the timeline. So we can talk about that in a minute. But so there's an article from the Church Times on March the 16th, essentially. and that's Monday this week, that essentially saying that the Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally, is going to embark on a 6-day pilgrimage on foot from London to Canterbury Cathedral, where she'll be installed as the Archbishop of Canterbury on Wednesday next week, which is the 25th of March, which is the Feast of the Annunciation. And it's basically talking about what will happen on her way there. You know, she'll be met by the Dean of Canterbury, the very Reverend David Monteith, and
or
other
her. Wouldn't wish that on anyone. Sorry.
they're going to be met like in somewhere around, where are they going to be met? I'm not really sure. Then they're going to make their way over to the cathedral and go to Evensong and all this kind of stuff. It's it's quite many of those places that are mentioned are actually very familiar to me because I used to live in Canterbury. My wife and I were married in Chilham, which is a beautiful village near Canterbury. But the obviously the controversy is that this was really. I mean, this is the way it looks to me, Tom. This was announced, and then many people basically said, "So you're not going to be in the House of Lords to vote on this abortion amendment, this decriminalisation amendment." So it drew sharp criticism on Twitter from various people for this reason. I'm just trying to find some of
Yeah,
the
I
quotes
mean,
now. So sorry, you can carry on.
I think it's a little bit unfair. For one thing, she didn't know, that they were, but able to. They're about to do that. It's not, the pilgrimage has been planned for a while, and insofar as pilgrimages are part of Christian life, I guess there's nothing wrong with her going on a walking pilgrimage. It's the old.
It's a that's very medieval Catholic of you, Tom.
Well, I don't do them myself, but there's no, if she wants to do it, she can do it. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think she has actually said that she is going to attend London for the bill,
Well, yeah, so that
possibly
sorry.
after this criticism, but
I think
I,
it's definitely after the criticism, but
well,
yeah.
definitely in time. And like whether she really spends a lot of time reading alt right Twitter handles, I don't know. But
I mean, I think that's slightly unfair, Tom. I think
fair.
there's been criticism from a wide range of people for this. I don't think it's the mainstream journalists and
All right,
yeah. But anyway,
fair.
I mean, so
Sorry,
I
alt
mean that.
right is.
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by that phrase. I mean, it's
True.
sometimes used as a term of abuse.
It's not. I'm not talking in an abusive way, but I think that's where
Yeah.
a lot of this has come from. Like reform politicians, and that's fine. I mean, I agree. They should have pointed this out. This is the right thing to point out, and she's done the right thing by saying, I'm going to pause my pilgrimage and go to the Lords. However, yeah, okay, go on.
Well, I mean, all I was going to say is that she must have known. Well, I mean, look, it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, my sort of thinking is if this article was released on Monday, where no mention is made of this bill, and this is just presented like in a completely straightforward way as she's doing this pilgrimage, whereas the debate was announced on Friday. And presumably they would have at least some idea of when these things might come up anyway. It doesn't really seem to have been something that was in her mind. And at the most, she actually would have known about it and was not planning on going and voting. And then obviously then there's a backlash, and so she's decided, well I have to now because of this backlash because it looks so bad. And so it just doesn't look very good. It looks like a kind of politician flip-flopping and U-turning. And then the other thing to say about this is, of course, Sarah Mullally has made comments in the past.
Yeah,
She's essentially said that she's not pro-life.
yeah. I would worry. Which I mean, those who've criticised her about not turning up, given her previous comments on it, I would worry that she would in fact approve of the amendment anyway, because she said, quote. Last that women facing unwanted pregnancies are confronted with the hardest of choices. Ultimately, they require compassion and care in order to support them in heart-wrenching decisions they must take. Must they take? Dame Sarah said, quote, they should not be prosecuted. However, decriminalising abortion can at the same time inadvertently undermine the value of unborn life. Well, thanks for that wet flannel of a statement. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, for one thing, it's not a heart-wrenching decision. There should be no real moral angst over not having an abortion. So, it's not, do you see what I mean, Jamie?
Mm.
The
Yeah,
decision
yeah, for
is should
sure.
never be heart wrenching. In a just society, people should not be killing babies because they're quote unwanted. You
Yeah,
know, if you don't
yeah,
want babies, don't have sex.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's
And, don't go then, as we've already said, oh, but what about the rape ones? Okay, fine. Even if I allow you, rape ones are in a potentially different moral category. That's not the vast majority of abortions. So, it is a fair thing to say. Don't try the slippery, that kind of
yeah.
thin end
It's
of the
like
wedge
the
stuff.
yeah thin end of
Um,
the wedge. Yeah, yeah. And
um,
sorry, I should clarify as well. I said that she said she's not pro life. She actually says she's not pro choice. But then she does
well, she
make
says she's
comment.
pro-choice at one point. She said, "I'm more of a pro-choice." I
Yeah,
think she
there
said,
there
"For
is no.
myself, I'm pro-life, but for other people, I'm pro-choice," which is just, it's again wet, not what we need. Um, uh,
Yeah. And the
what
other
does
thing you could say about this as well, right, is that she said, decriminalizing abortion could inadvertently undermine the value of human life, eroding the safeguards and legal restrictions. So she feels ambivalent about this. Maybe she was doing this pilgrimage, maybe she scheduled it, and then she heard that the vote was happening, and she thought to herself, "Good, I'm not going to have to vote on this for this reason."
yeah, yeah.
Because
So
we don't know we don't really know where she stands. You're right. We don't know whether she would vote against it or not,
um,
which is a great shame, isn't it, Tom? Because really, in this kind of situation, you really want the Archbishop of Canterbury to be gathering all the bishops together and saying, "Look, we've all got to be at this vote, and we've all got to vote against this. En masse. We've got to speak with one voice, and we've all got to vote against this and provide a strong moral guide for the nation." And it's such a shame that, I mean, regardless of what you say about like the timing and things like that, it's obviously reactive at best, and at worst, it's something worse than that. So it's not it's not what we need from the Lord's spiritual. Like
no,
when are they going to start providing proper moral guidance and leadership for the nation? That's what they're there for, and that's the only purpose really for them to be there. If they're not going to do that, then they don't really they shouldn't be there.
yeah, yeah.
Other things to mention as well, Dr. Callum Miller, he tweets and he doesn't provide any substantiation for this, but he tweets having received word that the bishop, sorry, have received words that the bishops of Winchester and Norwich are not attending Parliament to vote against abortion up to birth due to unspecified diary commitments. That's in quotation. So he might have some private correspondence, and then he says this is extremely disappointing. So as I say, we don't know if this is true or not. I hope it's not true. Bishop Philip is my Diocesan bishop. I hope he's going and that he's planning on voting. Really, it should be something that bishops clear their diary for, in my opinion.
That's a bit tricky. Again, they do have dual roles here. Yeah, okay, absolutely. Um, I understand that they might have commitments that they can't drop at a short notice. That happens. Um, but yeah,
Well, yeah, it's a question of priorities, though, isn't it, Tom? I mean, if
yeah,
can you imagine, like, if this bill gets passed and abortion gets decriminalised up to birth in this nation, and part of the reason is because the bishops of the Church of England were too busy doing other things. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
what could be more important than voting against this bill? I mean, it would have to be pretty significant, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah. I guess.
Um, yeah. So anyway, so we hope that the bishops are going. I mean, it's obviously like we're not going to have any influence. It's too late anyway. But yeah, we hope and pray that they do, and that they provide a moral lead. And again, like just to say is that people would support the bishops if they did provide this moral lead. People would be. You can see the criticism, like when they don't. Like, why don't they just stand up and say, we're gonna provide a strong moral lead? When to be fair to her, Sarah Mullally did provide a stronger lead on the assisted suicide thing, and
Yep,
she was
yep,
widely praised for doing so.
yeah.
So why not on abortion as well when it's such a
And
pertinent
I
issue?
mean, really, the Church of England needs to be a bit less equivocal about, uh, and start actually having a strong policy against abortion. I think would be a good step. I mean, it's sort of there, but it's not very clear. I mean,
Yeah, there. I mean, so in my research on this, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got general synod briefings, press statements, and responses over the years, and that phrase of combining principled slash strong opposition to abortion with recognition of rare, strictly limited exceptions, that is pretty consistent in terms of what's been said over the years.
yeah,
Um, but it's not emphasized, is it? That's the thing. It's
no,
like
no,
nobody ever really talks about it. Yeah. So I think maybe one other story, well, two stories really, Tom. So one of them is comes from the Daily Mail. I actually saw this because it was tweeted about by Tom Holland, no less. Pupils' drawings could be blasphemous under Islamic law. Labour councils tell schools, while music and dance classes may go against the teachings of Islam. So this is an interesting one here. And actually, Tom Holland, who's normally like not he wouldn't be you wouldn't call him a member of the alt-right. I mean,
no,
he's gone straight for the critique, quoting it: respect for religious tradition should not undermine the requirements for all pupils to have a broad and balanced curriculums. Students should not reproduce images of Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, or other figures considered to be prophets in Islam. So that's a couple of quotations from this guidance. So essentially, this guidance has been given to schools. I think it's in the north of England, isn't it?
yeah,
And where these sorts of things. So, for example, this report includes, well, it tells people to be aware, tells schools to be aware of the sensitivities that some Muslim parents may have around the teachings of aspects of art, drama, dance, music, physical education, religious education, and RSHE. The publication cites art as an example, stating that Islamic culture and civilization has a rich artistic tradition, but schools may find there are religious exceptions. A three-dimensional imagery that should say image, presumably. A three-dimensional image of humans is considered idolatrous by some Muslims, the guidance warns. It's very important that the school understands this and is also careful not to ask its students to reproduce images of Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, or other figures considered to be prophets. That's what I just quoted from Tom Holland. Some Muslim pupils may not wish to draw the human figure. The guidance has been distributed to many schools, including Batley Grammar School. Um, Around the teaching of music, in Islam, music is traditionally limited to the human voice and non-tunable percussion instruments, as in the days of the Prophet, when they were only used in marriage ceremonies on the battlefield. There's also a diversity of opinion regarding music amongst Muslims, and schools should ensure students are not asked to join in songs that conflict with their religious beliefs. And then various other things that are said. So I think obviously like the controversy here, people pushing back against Tom Holland saying, well, they're not saying like, they're being forced to do these things or they're being forced not to do these things. They're just raising this as possibilities. They're raising these things as possibilities and telling people to be like sensitive to people's religious beliefs and so on and so forth. But many people think that even issuing this guidance is obviously implying something and it's going far beyond that. So what do you think, Tom?
yeah. I think that well, I tend to not worry about it too much, and more towards the second point than the first. Because I think it's quite good to educate people about how Islam sees all these things in a way, because they might suddenly start thinking, well, actually, maybe they're not just kind of like um, uh, you know, enriching our society, but maybe there are sort of problems, from the other side of it, like people didn't realize. The part of me would like to, taunt you about, whether these are all second commandment violations anyway, aren't they? So, we should probably ban them all in our churches
Well,
now.
yeah, I mean, you are actually basically like quite close to Islam.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, surely you wouldn't say that like drawing a three-dimensional human figure just in any context is a violation of the second commandment.
Jamie, I'm only winding
Three
you up.
dimension.
I do have pictures in my house of things,
I can
and I
see a
don't,
three-dimensional picture behind you.
and I somehow managed to avoid worshipping them, so that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
there is an icon of Stephen behind me.
Well, that's two-dimensional, so that's fine, isn't it? So
Is
you
it?
you were right with that. Well, that's why the Eastern Orthodox don't have statues because they consider it to be a violation of the whichever second commandment.
I don't see how a statue. Right, anyway, yeah, that seems sort of almost sort of Phariseeism to me to say, a statues are not a problem, but a picture isn't.
Well, it's because of the
Either.
word graven in the second commandment, right? The graven image. I mean, look, I don't have that
But
view,
I mean, that was
obviously.
the only way that they had to make images then. Anyway, really, I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't have
No, I
paper in
agree.
the
I
same way.
agree.
But,
Context is very important. Context is
um,
important here.
I've got a statue of Venus de Milo in my garden.
And what do you do with it?
Well, offer fruits and
Votive offerings.
light candles in front of it. Occasional, child sacrifice. But yeah, no, no, it sits there looking pretty between a couple of trees. Anyway,
Very nice.
it's very nice. Yeah, I bought it for my wife.
You actually bought it, flipping it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
You're a man. You're a
she,
man full of contradictions, Tom.
she's always wanted a statue in the garden. I thought, well, they do look quite nice. So, um,
Very nice.
mostly birds poo on it. um, so, sometimes voraciously. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, just to come back to this for a second.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the problems around this is that, well, obviously we're like reading a Daily Mail article, so it's expressing this in a certain way, but a lot of it seems to be about Islam and about sensitivities to Islam rather than you would have hoped it would be more sort of like, well, it would say something about Christianity as well. I suppose this isn't so much, this isn't really about Church of England schools, is it? But yeah, it's sort of for people who would want to see Christianity being given recognition as our national religion, with an established church and so on and so forth. It sort of contributes to this sense that Christianity isn't really very important, and really what we ought to be doing is mainly being sensitive to Muslims and Muslim children. So there's that kind of thing, isn't there?
There's a Twitter post about the breaking iftar in Trafalgar Square. I saw,
Mm.
and with all of this sort of debate around, and someone saying, well, actually, these prayers are public declarations of Islamic kind of domination.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And don't have a place in a Christian country, which I think I don't really mind what Muslims do in a mosque, but I think if they're all going to come into the public square, then at the very least they should be allowed, the public square should be allowed to shout back, but it's a bit like the football breaking the fast there as well. It's all just kind of rubbing it in,
Yeah.
demanding that it takes the place of a natural sort of Christianity.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that. I mean, the thing about the breaking of Ramadan fast at football stadiums, I can't actually remember whether we talked about this on the show, but
You talked about it last week and the week before, possibly.
oh,
I
did
don't
I?
know.
Right, right,
I've just realised that I'm working off last week's.
oh, you were looking at the thing from last
Well, you
week.
never shared me. You never shared this week's one with
Yeah,
me.
it did. Yeah, it's in the chat there.
It's in the chat.
It's in the not in the not in the it's in our signal chat. Now
I can't. I can't. Okay, I see. That would explain things.
you're not actually looking at the show.
Not actually looking at the right show notes.
That's okay. I mean,
It only took me an hour to work it out.
Yeah, it's only just we've only just realised that. Hang on a second. I'll just make sure you've got it. I mean, we basically finished the show now, so I'll put it
We
in.
have, yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so there you go. There it is. I was just looking through the advice. I mean,
Yeah.
there is the occasional mention of there's the occasional mention of Christianity, but essentially it's very much like, for example, in the food section, there's no mention of Christian practices around food at all. It just talks about like Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Rastafarians, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mormons. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It'd be interesting to actually read. It's a very long document, but it would be amazing to like read through the document and actually try and work out how you could act. I mean, because it's so complicated. It's like, well, you have to do this for Hindus, and you have to do this for Rastafarians, you have to do this for Muslims. It's
How
it's like
about
a nightmare. It's like a
how
nightmare.
about we say that actually the culture here is Christian and that's what everyone has to do, or maybe stay in your own you know
Yeah,
in your own country almost. This is you come here, then you engage with the host's culture,
yeah.
and you respect it rather than demanding spaces to be carved out constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is the case that like if you're going to have a country where it's say you have a country where like it's sort of accepted that Christianity is like the national religion and that it's taught in schools and you have like Christian worship in schools and so on, but at the same time there's a recognition that people who are not Christians, shouldn't be excluded from public life and they should be treated the same under the law and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, then
Yeah.
you're going to end up with schools where you've got like, Christian schools, let's say, but you've got people who are not Christians in them, like Muslims or, whatever.
Hmm.
Then, it's not to say like it's entirely straightforward as to how you would deal with that, like, with, say, for example, dietary things or things like that. But you could at least work it out because you'd have a framework, which is like we're broadly Christian, but we have exceptions for people who are not Christian. With this is just like relativism. It's just
Yeah.
pluralism, isn't it? Where everybody's view and everybody's religious practice has to be sort of considered equally. And
Yeah.
obviously, like the pushback would be like accept Christianity, which seems to be sort of like sidelined and marginalized. The other thing
Yeah.
I say is like a lot of people are criticizing Tom Holland because they're saying like he's being like a gammon for saying this. So Leah Hardy, I don't actually know who that is, says it doesn't say it's forbidden for children to draw religious figures. It says teachers shouldn't ask children to draw them. An important difference, surely. Also, the document is not a government diktat, but local authority guidance. And then she's done a quote. Imagery of humans is considered idolatrous by some Muslims. It's very important the school understands this and is also careful not to ask its students to reproduce images of Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, or other figures considered to be prophets in Islam. But I don't really see the point, that first point there, because she's saying the school shouldn't ask children to draw these images, right? So why I don't understand why that contradicts what Tom Holland is saying. Tom Holland's saying that basically we have to operate according to Islamic rules over art and drawing and the representation of images and so on and so forth. I mean, that's exactly what this says, isn't it? It's very important the school understands this and does not ask its students to reproduce images of Jesus or the Prophet Muhammad or other figures considered to be prophets in Islam. So if you're in like a class where you might do such a thing, this guidance is saying don't do such a thing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, am I missing something? Like what are these people? I don't really
Yeah.
understand what these people are pushing back on.
Yeah. Also, the idea that it's just guidance is a little bit disingenuous because quite often, whilst guidance is not mandatory, if you don't follow it, you get, you know, you get sort of marked down at Ofsted, etc., etc. So it's a rather sneaky backdoor way of doing things, but it's so common. So like they'll put out a guidance on safeguarding, and it's just guidance. But if you don't follow best practice as outlined in the guidance, um, then then you might have serious issues, and that's the case with this. So, like, if someone complained, say, an Islamic family complained, and then the council came in and had a look, and they said, "Well, you don't have to follow the guidance, but you weren't following the guidance, so
Yeah.
sorry, you're on your own." Um, uh, it is. I mean, that does happen. So I don't think it's
Yeah.
it's quite as clear cut as that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just trying to understand like when it says like Holland says the guidance is saying that children are forbidden to draw, e.g., Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden or the baby Jesus. And people are saying, well, they're not forbidden. They just say don't ask children to do it. But that's basically the same thing, isn't it? It means
Yeah.
that teachers can't ask children to draw these images because of the
But
sensibilities of Muslim children.
and it's sort of the wider thing, like drawing pictures of the human body might be required for biology, for
Yeah.
example. Is that I don't how are you going to teach that? Um,
Yeah.
I think it's disingenuous and quite alarming. Did you talk last week about English as an ethnicity, Jamie? Did you actually talk about that with
I
Tony?
don't think we actually got around to talking about that. But yeah,
Because I just wanted to, because I was quite alarmed by, and this kind of sits in with this whole thing, alarmed by a government white paper which has been leaked, which says that it's a far right position to hold that English is ethnic as well as cultural, and there's obviously, and also Mohammed has said the same thing that she doesn't think English is an ethnicity,
who
which
said
is
that,
absolutely
sorry?
Mahmoud, the Shahama
Oh,
Mahmoud.
Mahmood. Okay, yeah, sure, sure, sure.
I don't
I
know
thought
how
you
to
were
say her
saying
name.
Mohammed.
Well, I think it is a Mohammed, isn't it? It's another.
Is it? Okay, right,
I
okay.
imagine it is a
I
country.
thought Mohammed has said that as well.
Mahmoud.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry, carry on.
Mahmoud. I don't know. The and it just amuses me whenever, because this has been, I think we've spoken about it before. What do these people think? Are the English people just kind of like a blank slate? Like what are they actually claiming? Are we like the sort of ultimate humans that are
I don't think they're
completely kind
claiming
of,
that.
well, no, but if we're not English, are we sort of like a blank and unformed humanity? What are we? Are we,
I
you
think what
know,
they'd say is like we're British by virtue of our civic nationality, I suppose.
for
But
what tribe are we? What ethnicity? What
well, they
ethnicity?
say
Because British,
well, they say we're like a mixture of ethnicities. Like, we're not like one or the other.
but that's
We're all
but that's
sorts of
not
things, Tom. We're
but
like,
that's not true. I mean, I did my brother did his ancestry, and he's we're entirely Anglo-Saxon, nothing else at all. Um, it's
you probably got a bit of Viking in you, Tom. You're quite tall.
no,
Um,
no, very
if,
little.
even such a conversation would undermine the whole thing because it would mean that like, Muslims, oh, sorry, not Muslims, sorry, like a Pakistani who comes over here, for example, or an Indian or someone like that who has no shared ethnic heritage with our people wouldn't fit into that category. The only way you can really work it is if you say, the British ethnicity is just any and all ethnicities, basically.
yeah, but
That's
then
that's what we are. We're just a homogenous, amorphous mass of ethnicities who happen to
but
be one on this island.
it's not even true. Is the it's the problem. And that I like particularly enjoy the fact that the Wikipedia article for the English people starts with the English people are an ethnic group and a nation native to England who speak
Yeah,
the English language.
very
Um,
racist at Wikipedia.
very such so Wikipedia officially far right according to our government, far right. It also says religion, Christianity, traditionally Anglicanism. Um,
Oh, there you go.
uh, um, but it does then go, as it goes down the list of religions, it ends up with Islam, and you're thinking that's not a broadly large part of the English ethnicity, is it? The But yeah, if they're really claiming that we're sort of blank slates or something, so an English person, can I go to somewhere else and become someone else? Does it get
Mm.
imprinted on me if I go to China? Do I become Chinese?
Well, that's what the I think it was Ben Habib, the leader of
Yeah.
Advance, was saying exactly that. You can't do that because they have a distinct ethnic identity in, for example, Japan or something like that, whereas we don't here. But of course, like the pushback is like we do have a distinct ethnic identity, and it's not hard to identify. Otherwise, like what are? I mean, I agree with you,
What
Tom. Like, what
what
are
are
we?
we? What are we?
Am
Am
I
I
not
nothing?
like am I not an ethnicity of some sort? I mean, everyone's some kind
You're
of
not ethnic.
ethnicity.
You were just made out of the ground, Jimmy.
I'm just like a
we're,
blank
we're all
sheet.
formed from dust as a blank kind of.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange position, and I don't understand it because even if you grant like this notion of a British identity, which I just think is a complete made up nonsense, there's still an ethnicity of the people who are part of the British nationality, isn't there? Because everyone's got an ethnicity, right? So
Well, by
regardless of how you
definition.
describe it, like my ethnicity is like white Anglo-Saxon. I'm probably like, probably got some Viking and some like other bits and pieces, some Gaulishness or some Germanic. I don't know what Anglo-Saxon is, I guess Germanic originally. Maybe some other
A
Celtic
little bit of Britain,
influences or a bit
a
of
little bit of
Roman in
Britain.
there.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things, but that doesn't mean that we're not a distinctive, identifiable
But the
ethnicity.
same is the case of all of them. If you go to Japan, there's probably some Korean, there's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
some Chinese, there's probably some,
Yeah, like
um,
Mongolian or something, or who knows.
but the point is that English has been an identity since at least 1000 AD, I'd say, at
Well, you
least.
could say like with the
Probably earlier,
birth of the
800.
English
Anglo
nation,
Saxons, yeah.
yeah, Anglo-Saxons,
Alfred.
King Alfred, yeah, and
Um,
yeah, King Edward and all that stuff. Yeah, so that's interesting. Tom, let's go. Let's finish up now with a couple of things. We're going to have a nice email, which we'll read about somebody in a minute, and then we're going to have hymn of the week, and we've got a cracker for hymn of the week. So don't tune out. And we also have to tell people to support us. So I'm just going to make a note. That's very important. We won't do that yet, though. Right. So email.
it's a huge email,
Well,
massive.
I've actually read it through, and it's fairly clear. So the first one, let's do from Ryan. Ryan's a supporter. Even though I'm a Roman Catholic who regularly attends the TLM, traditional Latin Mass, and convert from evangelicalism, I really enjoy your podcast and have much affection for traditional Anglicanism. At any rate, I posted a comment below on your recent show, wanted to forward it, etc., etc. Thanks for subscribing, Ryan. Really appreciate it. He writes, just so you know, there are many Trump supporters like myself who voted for him 3 times that are questioning the wisdom, planning, and timing of the Iran war. He promised multiple times that there would be no more Middle East wars, yet here we are again in one of our own choosing. What's worse is that he has made no attempts to clearly explain why we are doing this thing that we didn't think we were voting for, or why the economic and domestic costs are worth it. Last week, Daniel came out with a very strong pro Iran war argument.
Really?
Many people did not like it. I have to say, we've got many, many, many comments. People don't
I
like
can
what I'm
see.
doing, man. Don't like it. Don't like the war. They don't get it. They always blame me. I don't mind. They don't like the war. And we haven't had many positive comments about it, if I'm honest. I'm ambivalent about it. As I'm clear, like people are attacking me and say, "Oh, how can you support the war?" I'm not saying anything. I'm a
I
facilitator.
think all we did is suggest that there might be an argument that it's a just war if it's achievable,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, you can make that argument.
If an out,
Um,
if a positive outcome is achievable, you might make the argument. And also, we were saying it's not necessarily only just a just war is not only justifiable in terms of self-defense. There can be other reasons. So we've just been exploring these issues. I think there are so many people, not our supporters and not Ryan, but there are so many people who are so jumpy about this. Whenever you don't like just come out and like 100% condemn something like this, you're like said to be like a stooge of Trump
Trump,
and like
Trump, yeah,
in the pay of Trump. I mean, if I was in the pay of Trump, then I'd be really rich, and I'm not really
possibly.
rich. Yeah, well, I mean, depends how much he was paying me, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Well, I'd
I
be,
mean,
I'd be much richer than I am now. I mean,
yeah, probably,
definitely. I mean,
probably.
he'd have to make me a lot richer than I am now.
Well, I think Ryan is reasonable, to say,
Yeah, definitely.
what is the wisdom, planning, and timing of this war? I mean, Trump may, of course, have his answers. I don't think it's. I mean, I'm not convinced it's an absolute abject failure yet.
No,
Um,
I'm not convinced.
it really depends on as we
Rejected.
said, on whether they can keep the. I think we said this 2 weeks ago, whether they can keep the strait open. If they can open the strait, and they're doing their best to, and it might take a few weeks, but if they can open it, then I think on the whole, the world would be a better place without a massively armed Iranian state. But
Yeah.
that's about whether it's accomplishable. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah. So that was a good comment. Right. So this is from Nick.
Nick,
Thanks,
Nick,
Nick.
hi Nick.
So, hello. Over the past year or two, I've been slowly finding my way to faith. I'm a 44-year-old husband and father of three. I try not to be annoyed with my parents for breaking the chain of belief. I remember that any biblical wisdom I did have came from my grandmother's in primary school. We never went to church outside of a school event wedding. I even went hard into the new atheism. The past 15 years have opened my eyes to a real evil in the world, and I don't think anybody who truly has their eyes open could not notice. I also long for a tradition that I felt was denied me. Last year, I met a guy who was a trainee priest, and I asked him if people come into the church because they wanted to feel the tradition and reconnect this broken chain of being was a good thing. He said he struggled to see how it could be unless they were coming in with genuine faith, to which I suggested that it's a massive ask to expect people who have been deracinated over generations to suddenly believe. Maybe show them how. Create the space that it becomes possible to have faith. I know for one thing, I know for certain that sitting in mass in a beautiful traditional church opens the door to faith far more than, well, anywhere else. At the dinner table, my eldest daughter has started asking questions. How can the big gang theory be real? Big Bang theory, presumably. I don't know what the big gang theory would be. Maybe God is real. The big realization for me was that I believed there was a real evil first. And if there's a real evil, it follows to me that there must be a real good, but I can't see it. The evil is clear to see today. The good I need to have faith in. Since then, I popped into a Catholic bookshop and brought a huge Ignatius RSV large print study Bible, and I found it lovely, a lovely Anglo-Catholic. And I found a lovely Anglo-Catholic church somewhere now. He passed his church to get there, but he likes the Anglo-Catholic Church, essentially. Crux of the problem. Right now, I'm like C.S. Lewis, where he describes this hall with many doors and spending the time here trying to open the right doors based on whether the doctrines are true, not because of whether I like the type of service. My very local church preaches heavily on welcoming boat migrants. They are all genuine, and even our children should find ways to make them welcome. I went to a Roman Catholic Mass last year because one of my daughters is in a Roman Catholic school. The priest leaned heavily on the importance of Western European identity, which did play to my beliefs a lot. But as much as I like this, I don't feel like Roman Catholicism is right. After chatting to my new friend, the trainee priest, he told me about Anglo-Catholicism, and this is how I ended up at my current church. But I felt a little disappointed when a sermon on the Good Samaritan was related to, once again, boat migrants staying in a local hotel. I don't hate these people, and if I was them, I'd probably do the same. But it's undeniable that mass immigration is having a detrimental impact on the fabric of the country, community, and probably ultimately the Anglican Church in Britain. I'm just not sure how to tackle this because I bristle when I hear about overtly politicized current things in sermons. There are things I'm unmovable on. I don't believe in the ideology of LGBT. I cannot stomach abortion, assisted suicide. I can't watch the beauty of English culture and tradition being washed away by welcoming all the world. Ad infinitum in sorry or in infinite numbers all of the time. I feel like Christian generosity is being exploited. I think my issue is the only church I have seen reflecting this is the Roman Church. Yeah, that doesn't seem right for me. If you have any guidance or suggestions, I would appreciate it. I'm sure you're extremely busy, etc., etc. But he's looking for the way forward. Keep the podcast up. It's been a real guiding light over the past year for me. I will put my hand in my pocket and subscribe. Great idea, Nick.
Hey, good, good,
Great
do
idea
it.
to everyone.
Everyone. Um, so I would be very cautious, Nick, about trying to find like the perfect church.
Yeah.
It's not out there. It doesn't exist. It exists in heaven. It exists in Christ. It doesn't exist in this world. So you'll go to different churches and get different things. And that's not to say that you should sort of stay with imperfect, for the sake of it, but rather you got to kind of discern whether these things are so irritating that it's going to impair your relationship with the communion, in which case go find another church that doesn't do them, or whether you can get on with them. The I mean, I think if you were in East Sussex, I'd say come to Burwash, but it's not Anglo-Catholic. um, I don't do smells and bells, but I think if you find somewhere where God is being worshipped properly, that's a good start.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so the Roman thing, he doesn't actually say why the Roman church doesn't feel right to him. But like I always think with the Roman Catholic thing, that you've really got to be sort of convinced of the specific claims that the Roman church makes about papal authority and the authority of the magisterium and things like that. I think unless you buy into that stuff, it really doesn't work. It doesn't work as a kind of as an aesthetic phenomenon because you have to buy into all the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about being an Anglican is I think it's a way of being like a Catholic or universal Christian, whatever word you want to use. But it's also there's a lot of freedom and you subscribe to a kind of core of orthodoxy. Obviously, we've got like the Book of Common Prayer and the 39 Articles and all that stuff. But there's a kind of core of orthodoxy, and then there's a lot of latitude. So I think there's a lot of kind of intellectual and spiritual freedom within the Anglican Church, and I think it gives you a way of being an English Catholic Christian as well, which is very appealing to me, and very appealing to lots of people, I think. So I would, I guess what I'm thinking as I'm reading this email is I'd want to encourage Nick to persist in the Anglican tradition. And of course you're going to get priests who are going to come along and like give woke sermons and things like that. But I think broadly speaking, if you stick in the traditionalist Anglo-Catholic sector of the church, then that happens far less than it does in the mainstream on the whole. He doesn't actually say whether he's in a traditionalist Anglo-Catholic church or a liberal Anglo-Catholic church, and that's part of the issue because like liberal Anglo-Catholic churches can be extremely liberal. In fact, I would say like that. The kind of vociferous. I don't know whether you'd agree with this, Tom, but like the vociferous liberalizing wing in e.g. General Synod would probably all describe themselves as liberal Catholics. I mean, you get
Mm-hmm.
post-evangelical liberals as well, but that's generally the term they use themselves. So I think you've got to like be careful about mixing all of Anglo-Catholicism up. There's quite a lot of difference within Anglo-Catholicism.
There are
Um,
even liberal wings of the smells and bells, aren't there? I mean, there's kind of
yeah, well,
particularly
that's what I'm saying. I mean, there are
yeah.
many, like where
Yeah,
we
but not even liberal Catholic. So, like a liberal Catholic church, you wouldn't necessarily expect incense.
yeah, for
It's
sure,
probably
yeah.
middle of the road. But whereas there are kind of quite liberal, uh, even within the society, dare I say,
Well,
there are some churches.
there's aberrant kind of there's aberrant views, aren't there, and practice
Yeah.
within the society which are very unfortunate. It's less strong on the kind of ideology of liberalism and more kind of like a kind of weird mixture of Roman Catholic kind of cosplay mixed with this sort of I don't want to be too critical, but like effeminacy and um, you know,
I don't want to be too critical, but
what
yeah,
I'm saying. Though, yeah, I
you're,
mean, people
you're
like read between the lines.
yeah, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that that's
Let the
different.
listener.
That's different to this like hardcore, like vociferous liberal ideology that's promoted by people like Charlie Batic Bell and things like that. I don't know whether he's into lace and incense, but I would imagine.
Well, not the sort of lace on the outside, maybe. Who knows? But the
Yeah. So anyway, this also is just straying from the point. I mean,
it
I
is
would say those are
a
the
little bit.
options. If those are the options that are available, I'd stick with the Anglo-Catholic Church and
Yeah,
and stay in the traditional wing of the Anglo-Catholic Church in the Church of England, and make that your home and persist with that. And things change. Vicars
yeah,
change, and
yeah,
you may move or whatever. Or it might be like I think the vicar is really important. So if one of those local churches has like a really godly vicar who could be a spiritual guide, maybe that might be an
yeah,
alternative. And
yeah,
you might have to sacrifice like the bells and smells.
yeah.
So
I think I would always say to people that there are other options. Like there's, I mean, my sort of ecclesiology is very much not bells and smells, but I do a very if you came into my church, there's a very coherent vision of what Anglicanism is that's been quite coherent for sort of 400 odd years. The low church, reverent, Eucharistic, sacramental, sincere. You would get that here. In my certainly in my Book of Common Prayer services, they're just because they don't have the smells and bells doesn't mean they're not all of those things. I would say, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, well, I think, yeah. I mean, I've said basically what I've got to say about that.
yeah,
We'll keep you in
yeah,
our prayers, Nick. Hope
yeah,
that you find the way forwards and completely understand. I think, that's another thing to say. It's like I completely understand where he's coming from. We've
yeah.
had this so many times, where people have, have these
It's,
kind of, they go to church and they hear these politicized sermons and it's really off-putting. It's like, people need to just stop doing this. It's a terrible way. It's a terrible abuse of the pulpit, I think, to stand up and start coming out with that nonsense.
the other thing, of course, is a plug for our church finder, which did it up.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
don't know if he
that's
knows about it. Does he know about it? Just
no,
Nick,
he
have you used our church finder?
doesn't mention it. Reverend, what is it? reverendpod.com, and then the church finder is in the top right, so you can have a look there. But yeah, I mean, he knows about the churches in his area, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's just trying to
Well,
find his way forwards. A lot of the time, I mean, pray as well. I mean, that's the other thing. It's an obvious thing to say, like pray for God's guidance. And sometimes, like something happens, and you meet a priest, or
yeah.
something
Well, he
happens.
obviously does know a priest. He's a trainee ordinand.
Yeah, well, he's got a
Um,
friend who's a trainee ordinand. Yeah,
or trainee ordinand, rather. Yeah, trainee ordinand is a bit of a
it's
what's it
a
called?
redundant kind of
Redundancy.
phrase,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ordinand.
It's just an ordinance, yeah. Okay,
Well, it
Tom.
might be a priest, of course. Yeah, could
True.
be a curate, an assistant curate. Um,
Sounds like a curate. Yeah.
right.
We do a plug for sport and then we'll do him of the week. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for listening, watching. Please support the podcast. We really need the money. I live off the money. The money helps to run the podcast. I'm not paid.
Until
I'm a paid
until Donald
podcaster.
Trump until
Yeah,
Donald
until the
Trump
Trump money comes in.
funds it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm a paid podcaster and writer, not a paid vicar. So please do support. Really, really helps. Go to patreon.com/irreverend. Chuck in only £2.50 plus VAT in the UK per month or more if you want to. And you can also support us on Substack, irreverendpod.substack.com. It's all the same stuff. You get our bonus podcast, Uncollared. You get the episodes early and you get other stuff as well. Really, really appreciate people supporting it. Really, really makes a huge difference. Please support today. All the links will be in the show notes below this episode where you listen or watch. Support today. Thank you. Hymn of the week, Tom. Come on. Whose
My
whose whose
song.
whose choice was this?
Well, it's
Honestly.
both of us, really, wasn't it? Because it's like, whose time is it? And I was like, well, it's my turn. And Jamie said, I have a great hymn. I was like, well, is it better than My Song Is Love Unknown? And he said, it is My Song Is Love Unknown. So
Yeah,
there we are.
there we are. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how we've both got such excellent taste. I was just trying to find a way of sharing the sound without sharing my screen. That's the way I do it.
And you failed. Yeah.
No, no, I've done
Um,
it now. I've
I
done it
don't
now.
know. Good.
Okay, so my song is Love. Do you want to say anything about this song?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. Hymnody.org tells me this is written by Samuel Crossman in 1664. So it's been, a long time in the Anglican tradition, although I don't know when the tune was first written that we sing it
Yeah.
to normally. Gorgeous tune. Really has a wonderful lift in the fifth verse, which a key change, which really emphasizes that beautiful theology. I think every verse is the gospel in miniature, really. Just the first one, uh, the sort of idea that the love that we know is unknowable. It's not that people can't know it; it's that it's too big to know. Um, who am I that for my sake my Lord should take frail flesh and die? Every moment just suffused with the gospel.
Mm.
Everything, every love to the loveless, shown that they might lovely be. I mean, how wonderful, is that as a sort of we're lifted out of our sin to
Mm.
be loved. Oh, everything,
Yes.
everything, every single verse is great.
The music was written by John Ireland, apparently. And
Classic.
yeah, and it's also worth saying this is often associated with Passion Tide. It tells the story of Christ's suffering and death for us. Yes, it's got some nice key changes, Tom,
Here
as
we go.
well. I mean, so yeah, so let's listen to it. So Tom, am I just to for musical nerds? It's in E flat major in the
Yeah,
REH here, and then it adds a D flat in the last bit. So it takes it.
yeah.
Does that take it to A flat major?
Well, it's. So I'd need to see the music exactly. Have I got it here? It's one of the relative. Um, where are we? Try. No, that's not the right one.
You might have a
Um,
different score as well if you're not looking at the REH.
Here we are. I found it. So it's in the fourth verse. So the who am I? We move into with the D flats.
Mm.
Looks to me D flat major. Now for an E flat major, D flat major is quite a way off, but it's
Isn't it A flat with four flats though? A flat major. I'm sure it is.
So I'd need to get my pad out.
Your
A
pan.
flat, like my pad out and do the harmonic analysis. I think it's the. I should know this, but my mind was not in musical modes. I think it's either the relative major or the dominant major.
It's well. You count upwards from E to if you count it upwards from E to A, it's four. It's four, isn't it? But if you go
So
the
down
other way, it's
fifth,
five.
down the fifth. So it's the subdominant major. That's
Okay.
just it's lovely. Which yeah, it's a slightly surprising turn, but John Ireland was fantastic and it really highlights that lovely that moment.
Yeah. So it goes
Often
in. Sorry, Karen.
often the text turns at that moment as well, which is rather nice.
Yeah, and then it goes back into the E flat major.
Yeah.
So it then sort of finishes in a way which I don't know. There's a sort of really sort of peaceful, comforting kind of way that the verses end in that sense. This is the final verse. Here may I stay and sing, no story is so divine. Never was love, dear king, never was grief like thine. This is my friend in whose sweet praise I all my days will gladly spend.
Here we go. Here's the change. Back into the E flat. Lovely. It's a great hymn tune. It's a great hymn. Everything about it's great. It's just so great.
It's an
It's just great.
amazing hymn. I'm going for a post communion hymn, Tom, this week for me.
I'm
The-
arranging it for guitar at the moment. I'm going to have it run because it's being run by the by our band, but one of our band is in Switzerland skiing, and another one who plays the flute, and the other one playing the cello is in Bali or something. So it's just me on
Gosh,
the guitar. So
oh,
I'm so normally as a little ensemble, but I'm just doing a bit of arranging. I love using traditional hymns on with my little worship group, um, and then next week we'll have it with the organ.
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, amazing hymn. One of my very favorite hymns. I always say, Tom, my favorite hymn is "O Come All Ye Faithful," and I want it played at my funeral. So if I die and I haven't planned my
You've said this
funeral,
over and over again. You've said
I
about
know. I'm just saying, if I die and I haven't,
every single hymn of the week slot. You say, "Oh, my favorite hymn is Come With Your Faithful," and you
if
want
I
it at your
die
funeral.
and it's not
It's like
Christmas and I haven't yet planned my funeral, which I haven't done as of this
gonna
recording,
die at Christmas tree.
make sure that
Shall I
that
come and preach? I'll come and preach.
as long as
I'll
you
pick it
don't
up.
preach against statues and images.
I'll come. I'll come and I'll preach. I don't know. I'll choose something against the idolatry of the mass
Yeah, yeah, that would be great.
for 40 minutes.
Come
Yeah.
to we'll have a requiem mass, and you can denounce our guest preacher Thomas Pelham to share a homily called "Against the Mass."
Yeah.
That would be
Oh.
hilarious if you did that. I mean, that would be genuinely, it would be really funny, and I'm sure it would put everyone in a great mood after my tragic demise. Yeah,
uh,
no, but what I was going to
do
say
you
is like,
wear
this is
hats in church? Do you take them off after Jesus is said?
I wear like I sometimes like, in
Or
a big
so
I don't wear it every week. Like I'd wear it at Easter and stuff like that.
Beretta, because
And
there'll be lots of Berettas there, I'm sure, because there'll be lots of friends who do wear Berettas, and you could do the thing where like you mention Jesus twice quite quickly and then nothing
yeah,
until the very end, so that they have to keep it on, and then you can say it just before the end, and then
yeah,
they have to take it off. Oh, it'd be
yeah.
great.
I don't actually take the Beretta off
Do
every
you know?
time
Do you know?
Jesus is mentioned. I think it's a bit much. And also, I have to say, I don't know many people who wear Berettas personally.
Okay.
Father Jonathan may wear a
Father
Beretta.
Jonathan does.
He's
That's
just a
great.
complete legend.
Gentleman. Yeah.
A complete legend of the Anglo-Catholic world.
Good.
Yeah. So anything else? Or what was
No,
it?
I think we're
There
there.
was
We
something
should
else I
pray.
was going to say. Yeah, we need to pray. There was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, sorry. You've interrupted me about 5 times. I haven't been able to play this. This
Five
is
times.
definitely one of my favorite hymns. I think it's an outstanding hymn, even in English hymnody. I tell you what, I think this one, I think O Come All Ye Faithful and O Thou Who Camest from Above and Jesus, Lover of My Soul. There's four bangers for you for my
Yeah.
funeral. Okay,
Okay.
there two of those are Wesley. I mean, Wesley, is to me is the greatest hymn writer. And those, oh thou who camest from above. I mean, what a great hymn.
Oh, that's good. That's
Oh,
good.
it's an amazing. And Jesus, lover of my soul. To Aberystwyth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Well, have we
Ba-da-da-da-da.
had that yet? We haven't had that yet, have we?
We should
As
have
our
that.
hymn of the week. That's a hymn of the week.
Oh man,
Oh, man.
talk about a climax. That is wow.
Well,
Spring thou up. Oh, let's wait. Let's do that soon, and then then people can hear it properly.
next week.
Yeah.
Good.
All
All
right.
right.
Shall
Shall we
I do
pray?
the prayer, or are you going to do prayer, or am I?
You can do the prayer if you like.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do the collect from the Book of Common Prayer for the prayer. So
That's okay.
let us pray using the collect for the fourth Sunday in Lent for the Book of Common Prayer. Let us pray. Grant, we beseech the Almighty God, that we who for our evil deeds do worthily deserve to be punished, by the comfort of thy grace may mercifully be relieved through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
everyone for watching and listening. Till next time, keep watch.
And keep the faith.